My wife posted, "Finally free," with her coworker while I was in the hospital for emergency surgery. I commented, "Congratulations." And that one word cost them their jobs, their reputations, and our marriage that I've replayed that night in my head so many times that it almost feels like a film I've watched too often. I can tell you the angle of the fluorescent hospital light, the smell of disinfectant lingering in my nostrils, even the sound of the nurse's shoes squeaking against the linoleum as she wheeled me back from surgery. I was groggy, barely awake, but alive. The surgeon had said it was a close one, appendicitis that went south. If I hadn't gotten to the ER when I did, I might not be here telling this story. I thought the world outside had frozen with me inside that sterile hospital room. I thought Hannah, my wife of 9 years, was probably texting my family, pacing the waiting room, or updating people online about how I was doing. That's what spouses do, right? When one half of the partnership is vulnerable, the other steps up. That's what we'd always promised each other. When the anesthesia wore off enough for me to hold my phone, I unlocked it expecting messages. What I found instead was a notification. Hannah posted a new photo. I opened it without hesitation. It was her, in a dimly lit bar, arms wrapped around a man I recognized vaguely from her office Christmas party. His name was Dan, a mid-level manager she sometimes mentioned. In the picture, he had his cheek pressed against hers, both of them holding champagne glasses. The caption read, "Finally free. Bottle with popping cork sparkles." And the comments were the nails in the coffin. "Yes, girl. So happy for you, sparkling heart. Knew you'd do it eventually," clapping hands. "About time you lived your truth." And from Dan himself, "Here's to us," face blowing a kiss. I lay there in that stiff hospital bed, stitches in my abdomen, watching strangers cheer for the death of my marriage like it was the season finale of a show they'd all been waiting for. I wish I could tell you I threw the phone across the room, or that I burst into tears, or even that I raged. But the truth is, I felt still, hollow. My heart didn't even speed up. I just stared at the screen until the words blurred. And then, without thinking too hard about it, I typed a single comment under her post. "Congratulations." That was it. No accusations. No fight. Just one word. It didn't feel like anger. It felt like closure, even though I hadn't made a decision yet. The nurse came back in to check my four. She asked if I wanted to call anyone to pick me up the next day. I almost said my wife, out of habit, but the word caught in my throat. I shook my head and said I'd arrange something. I lay awake most of the night. My body ached, but my mind replayed every little detail of the past year. Hannah working late. Hannah going for drinks with coworkers. Hannah's phone face down on the counter more often than not. I'd noticed, sure, but I told myself it was stress. I told myself marriages go through phases. The truth was, the signs had been there. I just didn't want to read them. When the sun came up, I opened Facebook again. Hannah had posted more photos, selfies of her and Dan in what looked like a hotel suite. A champagne bottle on the table, glasses half full, her lipstick smudged. She looked radiant, alive in a way she hadn't around me in months. Her friends had doubled down in the comments. "Obsessed with this for you," smiling face with hard eyes. "Freedom looks good on you. When you know, you know." And buried among them, my own little comment sat untouched. "Congratulations." She hadn't even liked it. Here's the part that still gets me. Not that she cheated, not that she flaunted it, but that she didn't even pause to consider the timing. While I was unconscious on an operating table, she was celebrating her freedom like it was New Year's Eve. I think some part of me knew then that it was over. But another part, the stubborn, loyal, maybe naive part, still hoped there was an explanation. A terrible lapse in judgment. Something that could be patched up, however ugly. So I didn't confront her right away. I didn't send her texts asking why. Or how could you? I stayed silent. And in that silence, something unexpected happened. People noticed. By the afternoon, my phone buzzed with 3 voicemails from numbers I didn't recognize. When I checked, they were from her company's HR department. They wanted to clarify a few things. One message even referenced my comment under her post. It took me a minute to connect the dots. Hannah had tagged the hotel in her stories. She'd booked the room with her company card. I knew because I'd set up that card's online account for her months earlier. The wine delivery receipt in the photo, visible on the table, and all of it was time-stamped, geotagged, and preserved on her public feed. I realized then, she hadn't just betrayed me. She'd implicated herself in something much bigger. That night, Hannah didn't come home. I watched her stories roll in, Her clinking glasses, her dancing, her inspirational quotes about rebirth and choosing yourself. I didn't text her. I didn't even feel the urge. Instead, I started gathering things. Bank statements, emails, old receipts. I put them into a folder, not out of spite, but out of survival instinct. Something told me I'd need them soon. And all the while, her post sat there, racking up likes and heart emojis, as if the world was applauding her courage. But I knew, deep down, that applause never lasts. And when it faded, the consequences would be waiting to be by the time Hannah finally stumbled home 2 nights later. I had already been discharged from the hospital. My friend Jason picked me up, drove me home, and even helped me settle into bed with a stack of prescriptions and a week's worth of groceries. Hannah didn't ask how the surgery went. She didn't even ask if I was in pain. She came through the door humming, heels in her hand, hair disheveled in a way I'd never seen before. She smelled like perfume and hotel shampoo. "Hey," she said, like she'd just come back from a late shift. "You look better." I just nodded. My phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, but didn't ask who it was. If she had, she would have seen it was another voicemail from HR. I didn't confront her. I didn't have the energy, and truthfully, I wanted to see how far she would take it. It's one thing to catch someone lying. It's another to watch them dig their own grave. She poured herself a glass of water, scrolled through her phone, and then, without a trace of irony, asked me what we should order for dinner. I told her I wasn't hungry. The next morning, it started. At 8:15 sharp, a courier rang the doorbell. Hannah was still asleep, so I answered. He handed me 2 large envelopes with her company's logo. One had her name, the other had Dan's. I set them on the kitchen table and went back to my chair. When Hannah finally stumbled out in her robe, she spotted them. "What's this?" she asked, laughing nervously as she tore one open. Her smile vanished. She scanned the letter once, then again. Her hand shook. Termination, effective immediately, misuse of company resources, violation of conduct policy. Her voice cracked. They can't do this." I didn't say a word. She tore open the second envelope addressed to Dan. Same wording, same result. I watched her crumble right there in the kitchen. She paced, muttered to herself, grabbed her phone and dialed furiously. Straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. Dan wasn't answering. Then she finally looked at me. Did you say something?" I almost laughed at that. Me? The man she'd left on a hospital bed like discarded laundry? The one she humiliated publicly with a Facebook caption? "I didn't have to," I said evenly. "You did it yourself." She blinked at me like she didn't understand. But she did. Deep down, she knew. She had tagged the hotel. She had booked the room with the corporate card. She had made her little freedom parade public, and her boss wasn't blind. For the next few days, Hannah spiraled. She called her boss, begged HR, even wrote a long post on Facebook about being targeted by toxic corporate culture. That one lasted maybe 6 hours before she deleted it, probably because the comments weren't sympathy, but thinly veiled questions about the affair. Meanwhile, Dan went completely silent. No posts, no texts, no calls. Word eventually got around. His wife had found out. Yes, wife. The man Hannah risked our entire marriage for wasn't even single. That revelation didn't hit me with anger. It hit me with a strange, bitter calm, like watching the last piece of a puzzle snap into place. She hadn't left me for love. She'd left me for adrenaline, for ego, for the illusion of freedom. And it had all evaporated in less than a week. One night, about 5 days after the letters arrived, she sat across from me at the dinner table. I hadn't spoken much, hadn't asked her where she was going or what she was doing. I was simply done. But she looked at me then with red, swollen eyes. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I don't know what I was thinking." I put my fork down. "You were thinking you were free," I said. She flinched. "I can fix it," she tried again. "We can fix it. I'll find another job. I'll cut him off. I'll." But her words trailed off. Because she saw it in my face, the answer had already been written. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just said the one truth I had been carrying since that hospital bed. "You wanted freedom. Now you've got it." And then I stood up, rinsed my plate, and left her sitting there in the silence she had created. In the days that followed, she tried to play both sides. With her friends, she posted vague motivational quotes about resilience and growth. With me, she left notes on the counter, promises about rebuilding. But I had already started my own process. A quiet one. I had moved funds into a separate account, gathered documents, called a lawyer. I wasn't going to burn the house down in anger. I was going to walk out with my dignity intact. Because the truth is, I wasn't the one who needed freedom. I was the one who had been free all along. Free to leave, free to heal, free to let her choices implode without me. And when the time came, that's exactly what I planned to do. Update 1. I didn't plan on updating, but after the avalanche that followed my wife's finally free post, things escalated in ways I couldn't have predicted. And since many of you asked what happened after the termination letters landed, here's the full picture. The day after the letters. The morning after Hannah and Dan received their termination letters, my phone rang nonstop. Not from Hannah, not from Dan, but from her parents. Is it true? Her mother demanded. Is it true she lost her job because of some coworker? I told them to ask their daughter. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I simply said, everything she posted online is public. Go look for yourselves. 5 minutes later, Hannah's mom called again, crying this time. She's ruined. She's absolutely ruined. I didn't say anything. Because how do you explain to someone that their daughter wasn't ruined by me, or by the company, or even by Dan? She was ruined by her own choices. The corporate side. That afternoon, I got a call from Hannah's HR department. Not for gossip, but for documentation. Mr. Reynolds, the woman said, your public comment on Mrs. Reynolds' post was clarifying. It confirmed the timeline and the nature of the misconduct. We appreciate your cooperation. I asked if they needed anything else from me. They said no, but added something that made my stomach twist. We have received multiple complaints about both Hannah and Dan using company accounts and company-paid travel for personal purposes. Your wife's post, unfortunately, validated those reports. So it wasn't just a fling. They had been using business trips as cover, company cards as piggy banks. My hospital bed had been the spark, but the fire had been smoldering for months. The divorce wheels start turning. That was my tipping point. I called a lawyer the next day. I explained everything. The affair, the social media post, the termination letters. My lawyer didn't even flinch. You have an open and shut case. Not only infidelity, but reputational damage. We'll build this clean. Clean. That word stuck with me. Because the last thing I wanted was to sink to Hannah's level, to scream, to post online, to humiliate her the way she had humiliated me. My revenge was going to be quiet, methodical, and final. So we started gathering bank statements, phone records, screenshots, even copies of her freedom post and my one-line comment. Evidence, not emotion. Hannah's attempts. Meanwhile, Hannah cycled through phases. Denial. They can't fire me for this. Everyone flirts at work. Blame. You embarrassed me publicly by commenting on that post. You sabotaged me. Desperation. Please, don't leave me. I'll make it right. We can fix this. Each time, I responded the same way. Silence. Not cruel silence. Just nothing left to give. She would leave notes on the counter. I'm sorry. Let's talk. I'll do anything. But I already knew what the notes were worth. The same as her promises to me when she was sneaking around with Dan. Her family split. Her parents were devastated, but not unified. Her mother begged me, please don't leave her. She'll never survive this. Her father, on the other hand, cornered me at the grocery store one day. She did this to herself, he muttered, red-faced with anger. I told her 100 times that her pride would destroy her. You don't owe her a damn thing. It was strange. For years, I'd been the quiet son-in-law, the steady one. Now, suddenly, her father was looking at me like I was the only adult left in the wreckage. The social fallout. The internet doesn't forget. Even though Hannah deleted her finally free post, screenshots spread fast. Friends messaged me privately. Man, I'm so sorry. Some even admitted they'd seen the affair hints long before I did. We thought you knew. She wasn't exactly subtle on those trips. As for Dan, his wife, yes, confirmed wife, went nuclear. She posted a 10-paragraph Facebook essay tagging both him and Hannah. By the end of the week, everyone in their circle knew. And from what I've heard, Dan was served divorce papers almost immediately. The confrontation. One night, Hannah finally cornered me in the living room. Why aren't you saying anything? She demanded, tears streaking her face. Why aren't you fighting for me? I looked at her. This woman I had once thought was my partner, my future, my family, and realized I had no fight left. Because you already chose, I said simply. That broke her. She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing into her hands. But I didn't move to comfort her. That wasn't my role anymore. The next step. So here's where I'm at now. My lawyer is drafting divorce papers. I've moved most of my things into a storage unit, leaving only essentials at the house. I've separated my finances. Hannah has been crashing between her parents' house and the guest room, trying to convince me this is salvageable. It isn't. The truth is, I don't feel rage anymore. I don't even feel grief. I feel free, which is ironic, given that freedom was all she claimed she wanted. And as for her, well, she wanted freedom too. But she didn't realize freedom comes with consequences. Final update. It's been 3 months since Hannah posted "finally free" and set fire to everything we'd built. The dust has finally settled, and I think I can close this chapter of my life. The divorce. The divorce papers were filed faster than I expected. My lawyer was sharp, professional, and relentless. Every shred of evidence, her post, the termination letters, the financial records of her company card, business trips, was lined up neatly like dominoes. Hannah didn't fight much. At first, she said, "We don't need lawyers. We can just talk this out." But when she saw what my lawyer had compiled, she knew it was pointless. She broke down during mediation. "Please don't destroy me," she whispered across the table. But I didn't have to destroy her. She had already done that herself. In the end, I kept the house, the savings, and my pension untouched. She walked away with what little she had in her personal account. Her parents tried to intervene, but even her father admitted, "You reap what you sow." The ink dried on the papers, and just like that, 38 months of marriage, gone. The last conversation. After the divorce, she asked to meet for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed. She looked smaller somehow. Hair unkempt, hands shaking around her cup. Nothing like the confident, laughing woman who once stood beside me. "I ruined everything, didn't I?" she said. "Yes," I answered, not cruelly, just honestly. Tears welled up. "Dan's gone. He won't even answer my texts. My parents barely speak to me. I don't have a job. I don't. I don't even know who I am anymore." I stared at her for a long moment. There was a part of me that wanted to reach across the table to comfort her out of habit. But habits aren't love, and I didn't love her anymore. "You wanted freedom," I said gently. "Now you have it." She sobbed openly, and people in the cafe began to stare. I stood up, placed a 20 on the table for her drink, and walked out. That was the last time I saw her. The fallout. Word about Hannah and Dan spread quickly in our town. People love gossip, and theirs was explosive. Hannah, once the golden employee at her company, was now whispered about in every grocery store aisle. Dan, his wife divorced him within weeks. She took the kids, the house, and apparently half his retirement. Last I heard, he moved 2 states away to live with his brother, unemployed and bitter. Hannah stayed in town, but her social circle evaporated. Even her closest friends kept their distance. Nobody wanted to be dragged down with her. My healing. For me, the strangest part wasn't anger. It was emptiness. When you spend years building a life with someone and it collapses overnight, there's a vacuum. For a while, I filled it with work. Long hours at the office. Quiet dinners alone. Running in the mornings just to exhaust my thoughts. But slowly, life began to feel lighter. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. I traveled, just short weekend trips, but for the first time in ages, I didn't have to check with anyone or compromise. I bought books I'd always wanted to read. I even joined a cooking class, where people knew me as just Mark, not Mark, Hannah's husband. And one day, something clicked. I realized I was smiling again, genuinely, not just out of habit. A new beginning. A few weeks ago, I went on my first actual date since the divorce. A friend introduced us. Her name's Emily, and she's nothing like Hannah. Where Hannah thrived on drama, Emily thrives on peace. Where Hannah posted every moment online, Emily barely uses social media. Where Hannah saw me as a stepping stone, Emily sees me as a partner. It's early, and I'm cautious. But for the first time in years, I'm excited about the future, not haunted by the past. Reflection. Looking back, I see now that Hannah's "finally free" post wasn't about freedom at all. It was about ego. She wanted validation, attention, the thrill of rebellion. But freedom without responsibility isn't freedom, it's self-destruction. She destroyed her career, her reputation, her relationships, and her marriage. And all she got in return was loneliness. Me? I didn't have to lift a finger. All I had to do was step aside and let her choices catch up with her. And now, for the first time in a long time, I am the one who is truly free. Final note. To anyone who's been betrayed like this, don't beg, don't chase, don't try to reason with someone who's already decided you're not enough. Just step back, protect yourself, and let the truth do the work. Because sometimes, the sweetest revenge is not revenge at all, it's peace.